the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
Sometimes it's easier to get an invitation to speak, to lecture, to teach, to train in a place where you might think, I don't even know why they want me there. That's just a reality that a lot of people have to deal with. And as a master communicator, as a leader, you got to be ready for that. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and it is amazing to me how often a leader will get an invitation to speak to a place where the audience is, well, they're not sympathetic. They don't agree with your ideas. It would seem like if you're popular in a particular vein of thinking, if your ideas are profound and prolific and everybody loves them, that's where you would get an invitation to speak, like a comedian or an artist. I mean, most people don't buy tickets to a concert to see a comedian or hear a band if they've never heard the songs before, or they've heard them but they don't like them. That's not usually the way it works. In fact, the more popular you are in a genre, in a niche, in a category, the more likely you will get invited to speak or perform for them. But it seems like leaders, whether you're talking about the board or you're talking about a competitive business or you're talking about a marketing environment or you're talking about opening a new market, it seems like as a leader, as a professional communicator, oftentimes the task is to speak intelligently, articulately, directly, with candor and truth to an audience that, well, they really don't even like your ideas. In fact, the number of my clients who have been either invited to speak in a place where you might think their topic and that environment, that's not a good mix, or they've been invited on shows as a guest. Now, in the podcast world, generally speaking, because there's so many options, generally speaking in the podcast world, it's not a game of gotcha media. But when you get into mainstream media, you get into television, you get into big brand names, the ABCs, the NBCs, the CBSs, the Fox News, the CNNs. When you find yourself in front of that microphone, the odds that you're going to get a journalist, an interviewer on the other side who's going to say to you, I want to ask you about, and what follows that, they know they're poking you right in your feelers, right in your convictions. They're harassing you. They're opening up a wound. Sometimes it's, I'm going to poke fun of your ideologies. I'm going to make fun of the things that you say you believe. I want to really get under your skin. Why? Because in their world, that's good journalism. They want to ask the tough questions. There's actually a talk show. I'm not sure how popular it is anymore, honestly, if it's even still around, but it used to be called Hardball. And Hardball's entire brand was, if you get on this show, you're getting the real questions. You're getting the tough questions that nobody else is willing to ask you. It might embarrass you. It might humiliate you. It might be the end of your business, the end of your career. But by golly, on this show, we ask the tough stuff. Well, how do you deal with that? If you know they're gunning for you, they're trying to embarrass you, they're trying to challenge you, they're trying to push you to the edge of your envelope from the time you walk in the door? How do you, because you can't really defend yourself against it, how do you prepare yourself for it? Well, the truth is, you got to do your own opposition research. Just this week, I have 2 different clients who've had invitations to speak in spaces that when we started digging into the organization that invited them, it was a little odd that that organization would invite them, meaning either they didn't know a whole lot about the communicator or they're kind of looking for that edginess. And so I've helped both of them prepare with some solid research into who's this organization? What are they about? What do they believe? What are some of the catchphrases they use in their own teaching, their own training, their own marketing, their own outward projection of identity? Who are they? And if we can kind of nail down that lingo, that expectation, and find the places where those parallel with the convictions, the attitudes, the belief systems of the person they've asked to speak, then we can craft a presentation that, for all intents and purposes, at least verbally, at least on the surface level that the audience is going to hear, they're in alignment. See, it was an old phrase, I believe it was St. Augustine who said, in the essentials, unity. In the non-essentials, charity. See, I believe a great communicator, a great leader, has this tenacity in them that's a balance of compassion and candor. But it's also grace tempered with grit. It's real easy as a communicator to say, I'll deliver whatever presentation is necessary. I'll bring whatever talk you want to hear. Which means at some point, as a leader, as a communicator, the only way to really deliver that talk to that audience is to abandon what you say you believe. At some point, you got to step back from those convictions that have taken you this far. You got to change your angle, change your view. Now, I'll be honest with you and tell you, some of the toughest acceptances of a new level of awareness I've ever encountered was in that research phase, preparing for the tough talk. When you challenge everything you thought you knew, one of my clients had some statistics, some data that they wanted to share in this talk. And when they threw the data out there, I challenged the data. I said, are you sure that's what it says? And they said, well, I looked it up. I said, I understand, but you're using a word there that could mean something entirely different if the word was this and not that. Let me look it up again. As I suspected, what you thought was truth, what you thought was evidence, what you thought was a fact that you could use as a billy club, actually isn't a fact. So how much does that change the entire tenor of your talk? If you agree that this statistic, as you've researched it, is true, does it change the view you have of the information you had intended to deliver? That's pretty important stuff. But see, it's real easy when you're in an echo chamber. When you're in an environment that's sympathetic to your views, to your ideas, to your calling, it's really easy to stand up there and spout whatever, and they just continue to clap. They think you're a genius. They might look sideways at each other and go, I'm not convinced that I agree with that. Is that even true? But they're not going to mock you. They're not going to call you on it. They're not going to poke you and prod you and try to cancel you for it. Because they're sympathetic. They like you. They're fans. That's an easier audience to deliver in front of. That's an easier audience to speak in front of. It's not always an easier audience to get in front of. Unless you've got a great marketing and PR team. That invitation to speak in the audience where you find yourself looking to be the mount on the wall, Whether you think of the bass fish and the little talking fish head, or you think of the big antlered deer hanging from the wall, that's the trophy. Yeah. Somebody won that. Somebody earned that. Somebody went way out of their way to make that kill. And you might be the trophy they're looking to put on the wall next. Maybe it's through a merger and acquisition. Maybe it's them kind of pushing you off balance to make a decision in your business or in your partnerships or in your allegiances that you wouldn't otherwise make. Maybe they're doing what the best deceivers have always done, and that's not necessarily to present you with a new truth that you've got to consider, but to cause you to question the one you hold on to now. See, as a leader, as a communicator, your convictions are kind of the base of everything that you do. And when you get this invitation, this opportunity to speak into an audience that doesn't hold the same convictions right now, you're going to be challenged in your convictions. You're going to be challenged in your belief systems, in your ideas, and your ideologies. You're going to be asked to present facts, data, truth, stories, emotions that align with an audience that a week ago you wouldn't have had a whole lot of comfort talking to. Now, the reason that we do this, listen to any of the debates between, say, Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson. Listen to the conversations between Jordan Peterson and Dennis Prager or Ben Shapiro. Listen to those conversations with Bill O'Reilly and Bill Maher. And what you find is people on polar opposites of worldviews, of religious views, of intellectual understandings. And you realize why somebody like Jordan Peterson reads books by Nietzsche, Dostoevsky. He's looking for that critical argument that allows him to reshape what he already believes, what he already thinks. And if you listen to some of his lectures, like the series I believe he's on right now, it's called We Who Wrestle with God. Many times he speaks in a platform in an auditorium with 5, 10, 20,000 people. And many of them are raving fans, but I've watched him do that on stages with 5, 10, 20,000 people in the audience when the person on the stage across from him despises everything he believes and mocks every conviction that he holds, laughs at, out loud, calls names. I watched it happen. Someone called him on stage in front of a large audience. They said, "You're just an angry old white man." Why so angry, bro? Why so angry, bro? There's nothing more humiliating than in front of tens of thousands of people to be questioned on your own emotional state, on your own convictions. Why do you feel like that? There's obviously something wrong with you. You're just an angry old white man. This is a powerful place of learning. Now, you as a leader, as a communicator, as an influencer, you have an opportunity here. You have an opportunity to deliver the truth, seasoned with a little bit of salt that honestly might be like salt in a wound. It might sting a bit. But you also have a chance to align with a new group of people who will perhaps better trust you in the future. I have my own story of exactly this encounter. Several years ago, I delivered a talk on storytelling, on story power. Same thing I do now. And after I delivered that talk, I was invited to come back and speak to another larger group on leadership for a well-known multinational Fortune 10 company. And when they asked me to come in and speak, I asked on multiple occasions, via email, via phone conversations, what is the core of the group that I'm going to be speaking to? What do they want to learn from me? Well, this individual that saw me present had also done a lot of background research on me, watched a lot of these podcast videos, studied a lot of my online teaching, and read some of my content in blogs and other articles, and said, the one I like the best is the one about attitude. That's really what I want you to teach. And I said, great. Who are these people that are gathering? Why are they gathering? What's the commonness about them? I mean, aside from the fact that they all work for this one enormous company. And aside from their executive directors and above, they're all in leadership. They're from all over the world. They're from multiple divisions. Some are in finance, some are in documentation, some are in legal, some are in heavy equipment. They're just all over the place. Okay. But what's the conference about? What's the theme of the conference? Why are they getting together? And I never really got that answer until the day of the conference. And literally, I'm sitting outside of the Melrose Hotel in Dallas. I'm in my car. I called the number of the lady who's hired me to be there, and I said, hey, I'm in the parking lot. I've got all my product that I want to bring in and put on the table to sell. Can you tell me what is the best entrance and what's the best place to set all my stuff up in? She says, so glad you called first. She said, I have good news and I have bad news. I said, okay. She said, the bad news is we have overcrowded the room, and so there's no place to put your table in the back of the room. I said, that's fine. I can put it in the hallway. I mean, maybe one volunteer will sit out there with it to make sure that nobody steals anything, but I'm okay with putting it in the hallway. She said, no, you understand. We have rearranged everything. The room is now so full, we had to put the food in the hallway. And so the fire marshal's already been here twice and said, you can't put any more people in this room. Not one more chair or table in this room. I was like, well, that's kind of inconvenient. I said, so really what you're saying is I don't get a chance to sell my product. And she said, well, that's right. I said, okay, well, since the objective of speaking without a fee was to be able to sell my product, then I assume you have my speaking fee in the form of a check or some other form of payment. She said, no, that would have had to have been approved 6 weeks ago, but we didn't know this until today, so it's not going to be possible to get it approved ahead of time. Okay? So I don't get to sell anything and I don't get paid. Right. Well, that's going to be a bit of a challenge for me. She said they were really looking forward to it. In fact, we had 4 other breakout sessions scheduled at the same time. And when they saw your talk title and the synopsis of it, nobody signed up for any of the others. In fact, we've already sent those presenters home. 2 of them have asked, can they stay and be in your course? That's flattering. She said, so we have 100% participation of the people that are here for the event and a couple of extras who want to hear what you have to say. I was like, that's very flattering. I feel very good about that, but I don't get to sell any books and I don't get to get a check. And so what else does that mean? She said, well, since we sent everybody else home, you don't have 45 minutes, now you have 90. This is getting better by the moment. So let me get this straight. I'm going to present now to 100% of the crowd, not for 45 minutes, but for 90 minutes. I don't get to sell any books, tapes, cassettes, CDs, anything like that. No online programs, can't make any presentation about that. And I don't get a check. So I'm going to speak twice as long to 100% of the crowd for no pay. Gotcha. She said, okay, well, there's 2 more things you need to know. She said, I've been watching your online podcast. I love it. I noticed from time to time, though, you mentioned this character, Jesus. Well, yeah. She said, I need you to not do that here at all. Not even a passing reference. Not even a passing reference. I mean, you got to stay on topic of attitude and you can't mention Jesus. Okay. So talk about attitude. Don't talk about Jesus. Don't get paid. Don't get to sell anything. Speak twice as long to 100% of the crowd. I got all the details now, right? She said, well, there's one more. You've asked me several times, who is the crowd? Well, yeah. She said, well, I've told you it's the executive directors and above from all over the world and all these divisions, right? So what I didn't tell you is that they're all here for the LGBTA conference. Oh, interesting. So I'm going to talk about attitude as a person of faith to a crowd of LGBT and Alliance, and I'm going to speak about attitude for 90 minutes for free to all these people that are making 5 times what I make. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you could have planned a more potentially hostile environment. I don't know if you could have taken the not so ideal speaker and said, oh, let's take a guy who teaches at his church, a guy who speaks on Jesus and faith on a regular basis, a guy who teaches leadership and communication skills for Christian organizations. And let's put him in front of the LGBTA, because these are the same groups of people, generally speaking, who don't even like Chick-fil-A and what they stand for. And let's give him 90 minutes to talk about one of the most divisive topics in the human psyche of the workplace, attitude. You couldn't have planned that with any more challenge. And so between the time that I got out of the car and the time that I got on the stage, I had about 45 minutes to go over in my head, what do I know about this audience? What do I know about these people? How do I align myself with the quote unquote market research or opposite research? How do I align myself with what's important to them, with their values, with their priorities, with what resonates with them without offending them, without wounding them, without hurting them, without being unreal to them, without being unfair to them? How do I say what I believe to be true without being demeaning? And it dawned on me that sometimes we carry a contagious attitude into a workplace unintentionally. We scatter these seeds at the beginning of the day, and we don't realize that by the end of the day, that seed is going to already be sprouted up. You know what sprouts up fast? Dandelions. Sometimes 24 hours. You look out there, you got no dandelions, you come back the next morning, dandelions. Where did those things come from? They're very aggressive weeds. Some people say the dandelion oil is actually very good for you, and that dandelion seeds can actually be used for anything from skin care to taking care of your teeth. I don't know. I don't eat dandelions. I mean, I have. I digress. But see, here's what I know about dandelions. They proliferate like bunny rabbits and cockroaches. If you got one, you don't have one, you have thousands. And so I stepped in front of the crowd and I asked the crowd, how many of you take care of your own lawn? This was my litmus test. And with that litmus test, I was able to say, raise your hand if you have a beautiful lawn. And many people's hands went up. And I said, raise your hand if you take care of it yourself. And many hands stayed up, and then they looked around at those people who had to put their hands down and say, well, I have a beautiful lawn, but I pay somebody to do it. I don't do it myself. There's a lot of pride in taking good care of your lawn. And so I looked eye to eye with one of those people who said, I have a beautiful lawn and I do it myself. And I said, if I showed up at your house on Saturday morning with a 5-pound bag of dandelion seeds and I throw them all over your yard, before I could finish the question, he yelled, I would hunt you down and beat you to a pulp. Okay. Yeah. So what if I drove back, and of course the whole crowd laughs, and we had a good little banter going on for a second. And I said, what if I drove back by the next Saturday and I came to you and said, hey, he said, if you came back the next Saturday, I would definitely beat you to a pulp. I said, well, what if I came back and I said, where's all those roses I planted? He said, you'd be a knucklehead. You'd be an idiot. You can't throw out dandelion seeds and expect to come back for roses. Interesting. I said, anybody ever had that morning where you're running a little late for work, you stop to get your coffee, they give you the wrong cup, and then as you're pulling into your parking space, somebody cuts you off in the rain, takes your parking space, jumps out of the car, you spill the coffee in your lap, now you got coffee on your clothes, it's hot, it's uncomfortable, you're miserable, you're walking in the rain trying to get to your own spot because somebody stole your space, and you are not having a good day, and you haven't even got to your desk yet. Of course, everybody's kind of grumbling and laughing because everybody has had a moment like that. I see you walk past your executive assistant's desk and you kind of rah, rah, rah as you make your way in. You slam your door. And then about lunchtime, you come back out and you say, would you schedule a lunch with so-and-so? It's really important that I meet with them this week. See, when you walk past with that bad attitude, you scattered those dandelion seeds of a bad attitude on her desk, and then you went into your office all morning and had nothing to say. When you came back out and asked for a favor, you're asking for roses where you planted dandelions. And that, my friends, is because an attitude is more contagious than anything in the world, even more contagious than the common cold. The room fell silent. Now, if they knew my background, if they knew who I was, they probably wouldn't have a whole lot of interest in listening to me. They might think I was there to judge or compare or contrast with them and their lifestyles and their ideologies and their ideas. And I couldn't care less. That's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is to find a way to peacefully, passionately, with candor and compassion, deliver to you a message of both grace and grit. That attitude is up to you. It's how you think about what you feel and how you feel about what you think, and it's your choice on both sides. You choose how you think, you choose how you feel. What are you going to do with that? And I spent the next 90 minutes training on that. I was invited to their after hours happy hour. I was invited to their reception at the end of the day. I hung out with them. I have probably as many Facebook friends from that group as I do from the John Maxwell team. See, when as a leader, you're challenged to do the uncomfortable, when as a communicator, you're asked to speak on a topic that may seem like within the vein of your expertise, but not the audience you would have chosen to market to, you still have an obligation to speak the truth with grace, with candor, with compassion, with the grit of knowing that you're the expert, that you know what you're talking about, that you know that the solutions you offer will solve the pain that they have. And as a leader, as a communicator, you have an obligation to step into that would-be hostile environment and deliver with love what could change their lives. Doesn't mean you have to agree. Doesn't mean you have to like them. Doesn't mean in the end they have to like you. Just means that you've got to be integrous enough, solid enough in your core values, clear enough on your own value system and understandings that you can receive someone else's value systems and understandings and not look for where they don't fit, but look for the places where they do. And the essentials, unity. And the non-essentials, charity. Find grace for the places where you don't agree. Find simpatico, compassion, and grit in the places you do agree. And you can speak to any crowd with candor and compassion. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.